I had to cut it off. They were my best friends. We couldn't go any further though, 'cause I didn't want that for my life. I wanted other things. Following the deputy, I started working at the police department when I was 18. And I worked my way up to become a police lieutenant before I resigned and started to work for social services. So I have that perspective that I bring to this work. And then during my time as a pastor, I had some members who were experiencing some issues with either raising a child or inappropriate discipline. And I had to address those from a pastoral perspective. So my last approach to the work is from that as a practitioner. My role is to oversee all child protective services, foster care, and adult protective services and foster care in Cumberland County. That's about, I want to say about 300 people that I'm directly responsible for. But my title is Deputy Director of Department of Social Services here. And in that capacity, we have about 700 employees here in Cumberland County. So I'm the second in command of the department, with Brenda Jackson being our DSS director. And my role is to support her and to make sure that the divisions that I'm in charge of run smoothly. And one of those divisions is Child Protective Services. We have a statutory, the statutory authority to investigate all reports of child abuse and neglect. So that means that we can't go out just because we feel like knocking on someone's door, we don't have anything else better to do that day, and say, we're here. No, only way we can get involved is if someone makes a call to our intake number and says, we think something is going on in this family, we need someone to investigate. That's the only time we can go out. We can't just show up at your house and ask you to let us in, we want to take a look around. That's not how it works. We don't have that authority. Our authority starts when someone makes a call, and we have to do an assessment to see if that really meets the definition of abuse or neglect. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't meet the requirements, we still make a record of it. We just may not send anyone out. If it does meet the requirements, we will assign someone to go out, and we work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Wow. Our primary role is to ensure the safety and well-being of children that's in our care, and that's in our county. And we have a number of investigators who go out, talk to parents, talk to the children, talk to the schools, to find out, is there abuse or neglect that's occurring in this family? If so, what can we do to stabilize the family unit? The last thing we want to do is remove children from their parents. Unless in cases of serious abuse or neglect, then we have no choice. But that's normally after we work with the parents for quite a while before we decide that we have to remove their children from them. We don't want your kids. That's the last thing we want. We do want to make sure they're safe from abuse and neglect. And that's when we have to get involved. If we try everything we can, and that means that everything has to have failed, all the services we try to provide to parents before we actually remove their children from them. Unless it's a case of something is so traumatic, something is so, injury happens that's so bad that we just have to do it right away for the safety of the children. That's a different story. So most of our cases though, we really work with the parents for quite a while before we move to file a petition. On our own, we don't have any authority to remove children from their parents. We have to get a court order to do that. That means that a judge has to sign an order giving the Department of Social Services the authority to remove the children for their own safety and to place them into a safe environment until the parents can get their lives back together. And during that time, we offer programs for the parents, we offer services for the children to try to stabilize the family unit. Again, the last thing we want to do is remove children from their parents, but there are times when we have to do that. But normally that's after everything we've tried has failed. Some parents either cannot or will not ensure that their children are safe and protect their children. And that's when we get involved. Cumberland County last year, we had over 5,400 reports of child abuse and neglect. And those are high numbers for a county this size. We have over, well, close to 900 children in foster care in this county. We have more children in foster care than any other county in the state. And those should be troubling figures to us, because that means that whatever we have in place is just not working. Parents are not doing what they need to do, or the services that we have are not meeting the needs of the parents. So it takes us looking at all aspects of this problem to try to come up with some solution so we can keep families together as opposed to separating them. But we cannot just give up our statutory authority by not protecting children, because that's what we are there to do. You have a handout, a 2-page handout that everyone should have. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I do want you to, either now or later, take some time, look it over. You'll get a sense of what we do, what the process is like, and who to contact when you suspect child abuse and neglect. We get most of our reports of abuse and neglect from the school system, from hospitals, and from law enforcement. That's where the majority of our reports of abuse and neglect come from. So many times a teacher will see a child coming to school not dressed appropriately or hungry or dirty, and they'll call us. Doctors and nurses will see a child in the emergency room or in the doctor's office, and they know when injuries look accidental, and they know when injuries are not consistent with what parents are saying, this was an accident. And they call us because of that. And we come in and we do an investigation or an assessment to determine if abuse or neglect has occurred. So often in the news, like the deputy said, they're portrayed negatively. We're portrayed negatively all the time. We're seen as baby snatchers and, breaking up homes. That is really an unfair portrayal, and most of that occurs from someone who's had their children removed from them. But once again, on our own, we can't just go to someone's house and decide we're going to remove your kids from you. It takes a complaint or a report of child abuse or neglect. Then it takes a thorough investigation. And when we decide that there is reason for a removal, we have to make our case to a judge who has to say yes or no. You have enough information or you don't have enough information. So we don't operate alone. We have other entities that are part of this whole investigative process. So with that, that's just an overview of what we do how we do it. Normally, it takes us 45 days to do a complete assessment. Sometimes it takes longer because we want to make sure we're not rushing to judgment. And not falsely accusing or falsely saying someone is responsible for doing something they may not have done. It may have been an accident, but we need time to talk to a doctor. We need time to talk to people that may know more about the situation. Talk to relatives. We may talk to the pastor at the church to see if they notice anything happening. People see, and a lot of us know when a child is being abused or neglected. Sometimes we say, well, it's not my business. That's their own family, you know, I'm not gonna meddle. But that's really turning our back on a child that may be in danger. And all of us have a responsibility. In North Carolina, everyone in the state is a mandated reporter. That means if you see or you suspect child abuse or neglect, you have an obligation under the law to pick up the phone and call and report it. Again, you can do it anonymously. You don't have to leave your name. But just tell us what you know and we'll go out and investigate it. There may not be anything to it, or maybe a situation where a child is really being neglected or really being abused. And for us not to say anything, that's really leaving a child in danger. And we don't want to see a child dying, especially when we had the opportunity to intervene as a community person. So children are our most precious asset. And all of us have a responsibility to make sure they're safe, that they achieve a permanent family, that they have a permanent family, and then that they're meeting their well-being goals. That means that they're going to school, they're developing at the appropriate stages. So with that, I want to keep it short. But I invite any questions you may have.
You can stand right there.
Okay.
Because we would like to have you to entertain any questions. And I'm going to ask, okay, at this time, do we have a hand for questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I find your presentation, the information, very, very interesting. And I wish that all of Cumberland County could hear what you have to say, because as you say about the negative perception, like with even with the law enforcement and too with churches, and information that I've read so far on that is very, very helpful that we should share with other people, you know. And
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And all the information that I talked about is on our website. If you go to Cumberland County Department of Social Services or Cumberland County Government and click on Department of Social Services, you'll see all of the same information that's on our website. So the public has access to it. Again, it's informing ourselves and being willing to just look some things up on our own and find out what's out there. But it's definitely, the information is out there, and I do these presentations whenever I'm asked to.
Excellent.
Thank you. And I certainly believe that I saw a lot of heads nodding and individuals saying yes from this particular statement. You said that if you want to know what your future looks like, look at the people you hang around.
That's right. So
And I saw those heads, yes, absolutely. And I believe as well, Dr. Williams was trying to project to us today that we should be raising children with bright futures.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
Absolutely, bright futures. And again, we appreciate what Social Service Department is doing for our community And you've made it very plain that you don't want anybody's children.
That's right.
And I believe what he was communicating to us is that the social service department wants everyone to keep your children, to raise them up to be healthy children, and to have that bright future. But they are here, I believe, to help in any way that there is a negligence of any sort. And so, on that note, just trying to avoid that, they have procedures that have been set for all of us. And so if you see something that does not look right, I believe he says that, you know, if someone makes a phone call, and the major ways that they get these children or contact the parents from the school. How do you send your children to school? Anybody want to respond to that? Because he didn't make that comment in reference to the public school. So how do you receive children from the public school? Can you answer that?
Sure. Many times, school teachers will see something. They'll see a child that comes in every day and the child is hungry. They may make a report, or the child is stealing food. That's a red flag. That means that child's nutritional needs are not being met at home. That's an opportunity for us to get involved and say, well, again, it's not a reason to remove the children, but it's an opportunity for us to go there, see that the family needs some help, and make sure their family are receiving food and nutritional services. We used to call them food stamps. Make sure the children are receiving medical attention they need. So it's an opportunity, again, for a responsible person to see a situation, recognize that something is going on, and they make a call, and we get involved. One of our goals is to line parents up with services that can help maintain that family unit.
Okay. Thank you. Well explained. But I want to say to the parents, just before I get the next question or response. Suppose you know that you send the child to school with already have had breakfast and also lunch, that either the child will get lunch at school, and you know you feed your child every day, but a teacher has reported that your child is hungry, snatching somebody else's food, you know, those kinds of things. Can anybody kind of respond to how you would handle that situation and someone has reported your child? Yes, could you please come, because we need to hear this.
I'm saying back here, well, me, you know, I'm a growing creature every day, and I'm growing more every day, but yeah, I would approach it in a right way. And first and foremost, I'm gonna pray before I go in there, because I know what they saying. And somebody called me saying your child come to school dirty, hungry. Anybody that know Kelly know that's not so.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a handle it accordingly, and then I'm a handle it decent and in order. But
Okay.
first, I'm gonna pray before I go in there, because sometimes they can, you know, make things, you know, sometimes they can, you know, blow things up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't go in there decent and in order and prayed up, yeah, it's gonna be something that it's not.
Okay, Dr. Williams, you have this parent here. You've already heard what she said, and she knows she sends the children to school with clean clothes, and food, and you know, all these kinds of things. How would you handle this kind of parent?
Well, the first thing I would say is we would want to talk to the child as well. Right. There may be some psychological or emotional issues the child is facing that we can help address. We don't have counselors on staff, but we can make a referral for that child to see a counselor, because there may be something going on that the parent is not aware of. And especially as youth get older, what you see when they leave the door is not what other folks see. between the time they leave your house and the time they reach school.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes there's two different children that you see. If a child is wearing something